Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's product demo, The Adventures in Team Building with Jungle Escape, hosted by HRDQ-U and presented by Dr. Michael Brenner. My name is Sarah, and I will moderate today's product demo. Our time together today will last around 1 hour. If you have any questions or comments, please type them into the questions box on your GoToWebinar control panel. We'll answer as many questions as we can during our time together today, and we'll follow up via email with any outstanding questions there are. And now I'd like to welcome our presenter today, Dr. Michael Brenner, founder and CEO of Right Chord Leadership. Michael collaborates with leaders and teams at all levels to strengthen essential skills needed for peak performance. He achieves this by drawing on more than 2 decades of experience as an international leadership consultant, executive coach, keynote speaker, and educator, and more than 35 years as a professional musician. Michael's unconventional workshops, executive coaching sessions, and consulting services, grounded in the belief that when people work in harmony, great things happen, have helped clients increase employee engagement, reduce turnover, improve customer service, and create a more inclusive work environment. So thanks, Mike, for joining us today. I will pass it over to you to get us started here.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. I really appreciate the introduction. Welcome, everybody, to this HRDQ webinar. I'm actually coming to you from jolly old London, England, where I am on holiday, as they say over here. Uh, Americans would call it vacation, but I am somebody who takes my commitments very seriously. So even though it is 7 o'clock over here, and I could be out and about. I said, I have to head back to my hotel and do this HRDQ webinar because it's important. And there are going to be good folks on the line who want to hear about this really, really cool product. And it's my pleasure to be with you. And thank you so much for carving time out of your busy day. I know the holiday season can be very, very chaotic and busy. And the fact that you have made some time here. It's afternoon for you, it's evening for me, but nevertheless, we really appreciate it. So we're going to have some fun here talking about a really cool product. It is called Jungle Escape. We've done a series of these product demos over the past few months, and I think they've gone really well. This one in particular is pretty unique, and it is my privilege to be able to tell you a little bit about it and hopefully sort of whet your appetite, such as you may want to try it out, purchase it for your own team, and have a lot of fun. And along the way, find out a little bit about team dynamics, what makes your team click. And here we go. So if you have any comments or questions, please put them into, I believe it's called the question box. And my colleague Sarah will let me know if there is a comment or question. Otherwise, I'm just going to continue, as scheduled, and we'll take a little time at the end for any last minute questions. If I don't have an answer to one of your questions, I will make every effort to go and find that answer for you and have someone at HRDQ circle back with your response. So, the purpose of Jungle Escape. Well, first of all, what is Jungle Escape? It's basically a team simulation, and it's designed to help individuals learn basic team skills, experience joint problem solving and decision making, increase awareness of the impact of their behavior on productivity and satisfaction, recognize the effect of planning on group results. So there's a lot that you can learn about yourself and your team by doing really what is essentially like just playing a really cool game. And it also gives you an opportunity to really leverage your creativity and your imagination, which I think is one of the really cool aspects of the activity. It will also probably, most importantly, help you to better understand important elements of team performance. As somebody who has studied teams for about 25 years, I can tell you that teams can get very, very complicated. Just the nature of teams, the dynamics within teams, the various personalities and temperaments and agendas and work styles. How do you take all that and get the team rowing in the same direction? Well, Jungle Escape can help you sort of figure that out while you have a good time with each other. So let me pause here and ask you a question. and the question is on the screen. In what ways might your effectiveness on your team be strengthened or enhanced if you were able to know more about the dynamics of group problem solving and decision making? Right? So, in what ways might your own effectiveness on teams be strengthened or enhanced or amplified by knowing more about group dynamics, group problem solving, decision making? So it doesn't have to be a lengthy answer, but if you have some thoughts, go ahead and put them in the question box, and Sarah will just read a few of them aloud.
Great. So we'll give you a moment to type that in there. We have engage team members better, manage time better, achieve better outcomes.
Good.
What else we have? How your team members think and work through things. Utilize a skill set of individuals.
These are great.
Those are some of the responses that we've received.
Yeah, that's great. What I love is that all of those contributions really speak to the practicality of this particular activity. Yes, you will have fun. Yes, you will have a few laughs along the way. Yes, you will enjoy one another's company. But you will also benefit by getting real keen understanding with regard to all the things that you just mentioned. And so I think in that respect, when people are having fun and learning about themselves and their fellow colleagues, to me, those are the most effective learning tools for adults. So yes, you will gain some very, very practical wisdom about yourself and your team by playing this really fun activity. So there is a fair amount of research behind an activity like this. So there's a whole line of uh, thinking around experiences and the role they play in adult education or adult learning. And the term is called experiential learning. And the premise is that adults learn best by doing. There's been a lot of research to suggest that we do okay just by hearing knowledge. We do a little better by both seeing and hearing knowledge, but we do the best when we are hearing, seeing, and experiencing. So, Jungle Escape is really based on research that was developed in the late 1970s for one of HRDQ's programs back in the day. And that program required teams to build a helicopter using different objects with minimal instruction. Interestingly, when this uh, early prototype was released commercially in the early 80s, it became very, very popular and was soon used by thousands of trainers worldwide. And, fun fact of the day, it remains HRDQ's most popular team activity. So it is definitely based on experiential learning. It is based on rapid collaboration in terms of putting people together, giving them a task, and then kind of winding them up and letting them go and just sort of seeing what emerges. You could think of it as an almost like a real time social experiment, if you will. What the researchers found in conducting Jungle Escape with hundreds and hundreds of different individuals is that three types of groups emerged uh, from the execution of the activity. And I won't go very deep into this. I just wanted to give you a little background here. So one of the types of groups is called fragmented. So researchers observed some fragmented groups. Some hallmarks of fragmented groups included domination by autocratic leadership in cliques, limited participation, so key decisions were being made by only one participant or maybe just a few. Conflict was generally ignored, leading to frustration and what we call, if you had asked me, or if you had only asked me, types of reactions. And overall mixed feelings. So some members were satisfied with the experience, but others were not. So we call that type of group fragmented. A second type of group that emerged from the observation called divergent group. So in this case, we have passive leadership, cautious problem solving and decision making, and divergent groups experience difficulty reaching consensus. And issues were often resolved simply by voting, majority majority wins. There was little commitment to the plan or product, and most members were fairly dissatisfied with the group's effort. So we have fragmented groups, high degree of dissatisfaction, divergent groups, high degree of dissatisfaction, and then finally we had cohesive groups. And as you can imagine by the name, cohesive groups typically perform the best. There was balanced planning and implementation, democratic decision making, excuse me, conflicts were not ignored, not swept under the rug. They were addressed. They were, hopefully resolved to everyone's satisfaction as much as possible. But most importantly, members felt excited, they felt committed, they felt engaged, they felt involved, and were ultimately highly satisfied. So at a very, very broad level, it's interesting to think that simply by, observing the interactions between the various participants, you can get a pretty good idea of what's happening in a particular group and would even be able to identify a group as fragmented, divergent, or cohesive. As we know, there are some very well researched elements of effective teamwork. And these are just some of the topics or issues that will undoubtedly emerge in a debrief of the jungle escape activity. So there will probably be chatter around problem solving, decision making, obviously, but also climate. So in terms of like what kind of team environment was created, was it conducive to various perspectives and opinions, or did one person sort of take over and shut that stuff down? Right? Goal setting. So there are really two parts of this activity that I'm going to talk about: the planning and the execution. So how well did the team plan, set the goal, and then ultimately how well did the team execute? And of course, conflict management, leadership, right? Was leadership sort of shared among the players, or did one person sort of assume the mantle of leadership and guide the team going forward? I mean, there are important implications for each of these in terms of team effectiveness, right? So, who was involved, who stayed on the sideline, how well did the team communicate? You get the idea. So, a lot of really good stuff tends to emerge from the playing of Jungle Escape, which leads to a very robust and enlightening conversation about the teams that just participated in it. So let's talk about the product demonstration and what that looks like, because I think we have a pretty good idea of why we might want to do something like Jungle Escape and what the outcomes of doing Jungle Escape might be in terms of team dynamics. So quick timing description for y'all. Prior to the start, there's some preparation, there's some setup, but it's nothing, none of you can handle. It's not particularly complicated. So from about 9 to 9:10, and again, that's assuming you start at 9. If you started at a different time, obviously these times would look different. So just think in terms of the chunks of time that would be involved as opposed to the actual times that we've included in the slide, because that's just an example. So 10 minutes, introduce Jungle Escape. What's it all about? What can you expect? From about 9:10 to 9:50, what is that? That's 40 minutes, something like that. Is that right? Yeah. More or less, you actually conduct the activity. So it's not like a huge amount of time. And what's kind of cool about that is there is a time element. So if you gave people all day, you know, that would look and feel very different than giving teams a relatively brief period of time and telling them, hey, go to it. You see a whole different side of teams when you give them sort of a time limit. Then there's a period of debriefing Jungle Escape, which I think is arguably the most important part of the activity. And then we build in some time for action planning. So I think in virtually every HRDQ, program. There is time for reflection. There is a time for action planning. There's a time to think about, okay, what next? What does this mean to me? How might I change up the way I do things back at work? Making for a total of roughly 1 hour and 30 minutes. So let's talk about assembling the helicopter. Yes, you probably guessed that the key element of Jungle Escape is the um, putting together the construction of a toy helicopter. And the goal of the exercise is to get your team's helicopter to look exactly like the sample model that would be located on the facilitator's table. Okay, so getting as close to the sample helicopter as possible. Spending whatever time you need preparing for the assembly of the aircraft. Recall that I said there's really two parts here: the preparation slash planning, and then the actual construction. So spending whatever time that your team needs to prepare for the assembly of the aircraft, and then ultimately working together to assemble it. Okay, so two very important parts of the overall activity. Now we do have what's called an inter-team version, again, roughly 90 minutes. Pardon me. What is the inter-team version, you might ask? Well, it would be um, helping groups collaborate more effectively with other groups. Okay. So it will address task and interpersonal challenges to build stronger working relationships. And it's really ideal for any two teams or two groups who ostensibly work together often in their workplace and need to improve their own teamwork and cooperation. So this so-called inter-team version is really geared toward two teams or two groups who they're separate groups, but they work together frequently back on the job. Okay, so practical usage scenarios. In what ways might Jungle Escape be relevant to your work? Well, there's a few things here. So it works as a standalone team building activity, right? We have a lot of clients that just do Jungle Escape, but we also have a lot of clients who make it part of a broader training program. Say a full day where you're covering a lot of ground, Jungle Escape can be a nice piece of that day, or maybe even a 2 day offsite or retreat. You could dedicate a morning or an afternoon to Jungle Escape and make it part of a broader training initiative. It's ideal for both new and intermediate work groups. So we get asked that a lot. What is it for new employees? Is it for more experienced employees? And we always say yes, right? It's ideal for new and intermediate work groups. It's also great as a refresher for what we call more mature teams or more experienced teams. If you're talking about senior leaders, directors, VPs, these are typically folks that have been in the job for a long time, and they probably have a fairly good understanding of what makes their team tick. But I will tell you that they can also derive a lot of benefit from doing something like this, not only as a refresher, but it might also lead to additional insights about how their team functions or interacts, how their team members interact with one another. So I can't really think of a participant group for whom Jungle Escape would not be appropriate or relevant. Other ways you can use Jungle Escape. You could introduce the elements of effective teamwork by using Jungle Escape to do that. You can kick off a team building workshop or seminar. You can improve productivity between multiple work teams using that inter-team version I just mentioned. It's also really good for identifying group issues or challenges, concerns that may be holding your team or teams back from optimal performance potentially. It can also be used as an energizer. So even if your team is performing, at a very, very high level, this is a great energizer to just get people in, doing something fun, learning a little bit about themselves, and enjoying one another's company. So it's very, very versatile. Now let's pivot and talk a little bit about the actual facilitation of the program. But actually, before I get into this, I'm going to just stop here periodically. Stop periodically. That doesn't make sense. I'm going to stop here for a moment. I'm going to take a drink of water and give you an opportunity to put anything, any questions or comments so far.
Great. Yes, we do have a question here. Can you talk about the exercise? So, is it a one-time exercise, or how can you ensure that you take the helicopter apart correctly so that you use it again?
Yeah, that's a that's a good question. My understanding, and Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, um, I think you can use it multiple times, but the participant guides can be only be used once. Is that right? Especially if you write in it or something like that.
Yeah, if you were to write in our participant guide, and then we can again follow up with you at more information on that, Montez, as well, after the event concludes today.
Yeah, because I don't think, and whoever asked that question is a great question. I'm going to get momentarily into everything you get. Like if you were to purchase Jungle Escape, and you would get all the supplementary materials, you would get all the pieces to build a helicopter and so forth. So it might be clear after I've gone over all the specific things that you would get in the package. I see no reason why you wouldn't be able to maybe reuse the parts, but I think you would probably want to get fresh materials because once you give out the participant guides, you would need to obviously, acquire more for additional groups. So, but any more specific questions we can direct to the folks that sort of oversee the purchasing piece of this and get you, more specific answer ASAP. All right, great question. Anything else, Sarah, in the box there?
That's it so far.
Perfect. So, a couple of activities that you'll want to think about when you do the actual exercise. Obviously, constructing a sample helicopter. We also provide something called a timing chart, which I'll get into in a little bit. We also provide slides and intro videos to sort of set the scene and simulate a jungle crash landing, to the best the best that's possible, in a conference room or a boardroom. You'll want to obviously form groups, and then you'll want to introduce the activity. So we recommend something like what's written on the right here. You know, you might have the sound effects playing in the background, the jungle sound effects, and you might introduce the activity by saying, I want you to all to imagine that you've crash landed in the jungle while on a mission to deliver helicopter parts to a secret military base. Unfortunately, your chances of being located and rescued are minimal. The crew has managed to salvage the helicopter parts, and you may be able to construct an escape chopper. Okay, so something like that. It's you really want to have fun with it and have people really get into the spirit of it. So once the team completes the aircraft build, right? So you get the kit; it has all the parts. Obviously, we don't. I don't think we have, supply the instructions because that's the whole point of the activity is to have folks figure it out so they can get it to match the sample helicopter that'll be on display. So once the team thinks that they've done the best job they possibly can, facilitator comes around, checks the accuracy, records how long it took the team to plan, how long it took the team to construct, and what we've found in doing this exercise many times is that the team that spends the most time planning typically finishes fastest. Now, that may not seem like a huge revelation to any of you, but it is something to keep in mind. Typically, the teams that just go rushing right into the construction part of the activity tend not to have optimal results. So, there is something to be said about planning. And I think to to quote Albert Einstein, if I may, he said that if he had a 1 hour to solve a problem, he would spend the first 55 minutes thinking about the problem and the last 5 minutes actually solving the problem. Now, I don't know if he actually said that, but that is a quote that is regularly attributed to him. Regardless if he said it or not, I think that he was onto something there, right? If he had 1 hour to solve a problem, He'd spend the vast majority of his time thinking about the problem. In other words, planning, preparing, and then the final 5 minutes literally solving the problem. And that sort of aligns with this notion here that the team that spends the most time planning typically finishes fastest. Now, afterwards, team members discuss their experience, team dynamics. What was it like on your team? How well did you communicate? Did a leader emerge? How was team cohesion? What did you do to mitigate conflict? All the things we talked about a few minutes ago. They offer insights, and then I think the big takeaway from all this is the action plan. Okay, now that you've experienced this, and again, I think this is true for every HRDQ program. How do we connect the dots back to the workplace? So, what did we learn about ourselves? What might we need to do differently? What might need to change about the conversations we have or the way we problem solve or make decisions? And that really, really, that conversation, I think, is worth the price alone, just to give your team an opportunity to dig into those fundamental dimensions of teamwork. Let's talk briefly about some benefits and expected outcomes of doing Jungle Escape. Right? I've been leaning into this notion of collaboration effectively. You know, I since I do this for a living, I often talk about team collaboration as if you just throw a bunch of people together and just expect them to work beautifully. Well, those of us who have been in jobs for any length of time know that it's simply not that easy. You wish everybody would get along, and you wish everybody shared the same sense of obligation and commitment to the mission or to the project. But we know that's not necessarily the case. So something like Jungle Escape can really shine a spotlight on some of the areas that are not only working well for the team, but might be holding the team back. And again, it does so in a very fun and sort of lighthearted way, which, in my experience, can often lead to better conversations and actually more honest conversations. It will also help develop skills for solving complex challenges, the kinds of complex challenges that people face every day on their teams. Now, they may not have to build a helicopter, but the helicopter is symbolic, right? It's a metaphor for any problem, any challenge, any issue that your team may face in the workplace. So, understanding the importance of leadership and delegation, also very, very important to a high performing team. Time management. I didn't even really talk about that except to say that, teams have a limited amount of time to work on this. So just that alone, how far can you get on this task in the allotted time? I mean, that is absolutely a reflection of how efficiently a team works together. And efficiency is a reflection of all kinds of things: communication, trust, conflict mediation. You can talk about all those things simply by talking about how well did your team manage your time. So it's I love the activity because it lends itself to so many. You can slice and dice this exercise so many different ways depending on the specific needs of your team. Oh, here's another one: creative thinking. Right? There's an enormous amount of creativity involved in executing this activity, right? Because you basically have a bunch of pieces in front of you that in about 35, 40 minutes need to resemble a helicopter. So that is an absolute wonderful example of creativity at work. How do you take these gears and rods and put them together into something resembling a helicopter? So that's a really cool dimension of the exercise. And again, I talked about the importance of communication, conflict resolution, critical team skills that Jungle Escape, gets at very, very specifically. Here's another one: learning to manage stress and maintaining emotional control under pressure. That is an enormous piece of what we call emotional intelligence, right? One of the aspects of emotional intelligence is staying calm under pressure, being able to navigate through periods of stress, periods of pressure without losing your cool. Well, if Jungle Escape was only about managing stress and maintaining emotional control under pressure, I think it would be worthwhile to do. Let alone all of the other aspects of teamwork that it also speaks to. Right? Strengthening decision making in high pressure, time sensitive situations. So there's not a bullet point on the screen that I would say is not important to optimal team functioning. And this is the stuff that I teach and talk about all the time in my practice. You know, I talk about collaboration and creative thinking and time management and communication and decision making. I mean, all the things that I discuss with my clients are baked right into this jungle escape exercise. Okay, let's talk about sort of the nuts and bolts of what's included were you to purchase Jungle Escape. Okay, let's start with what we call the deluxe game kit. And there in the picture, you can see many of the items that are included in this deluxe game kit. Now, don't worry, you don't have to memorize everything I'm about to share with you. If you would, you know, you think this is something you might want to try out, we will give you some contact information at the end of this webinar, and you can, you know, ask away, right? So I'm going through this fairly quickly just because of the time situation. But if you feel like, oh, I didn't catch what comes into the Lux Game Kit or what comes in the inter-team version, don't worry about it. We have operators standing by, as they used to say, who can guide you very skillfully through any piece of this that you might want to acquire. So just real quick, deluxe game kit. One kit includes everything you need to train up to 3 teams of 5 to 6 players. Okay, so keep those numbers in mind. Okay, well, what does that mean? Well, you get one comprehensive facilitator guide, which I have seen and I have reviewed in preparation for this webinar. And let me tell you, it is chock full of information to help you facilitate jungle escape skillfully, professionally, and at a very, very high level of quality. It is really, really robust and well written. 4 bags of helicopter parts, right? So the gears and the rods and everything you need. Various support materials, which I'll get into in a moment, and 18 participant guides. Okay. It also includes, and I think this makes it particularly kind of fun, a prop pack with all kinds of fun, reusable props to help simulate in a really fun, you know, enjoyable, lighthearted way, you know, being stuck, lost in a jungle, right? So you can you can see some of the items there. It looks like there's a parrot and maybe a you know a palm tree, but it's fun. You can put them around the room and just really create a fun environment for the conducting of the activity. If you were to purchase materials for the inter-team training, that's a little different. But again, folks at HRDQ can walk you through all of that once you sort of land on what direction you might want to move in with your team. So these are all of the things that you would get in terms of the support materials. And you can see they're actual files. Like some of them are sound files, some of them are PDFs, some of them are PowerPoints. You get certificate of achievement for your team members. You get the helicopter assembly video clip, which is really helpful for the team to really understand what it is they're being asked to do. There's even a little introductory scenario video clip to help set the scene, and that's kind of a fun video um, to create the atmosphere of being lost in the jungle. We even have a sound clip with various jungle sounds, a lot of fun. There are observer worksheets. There's the PowerPoints. There's the timing chart, which I mentioned a few minutes ago, so that you can time how long it took the various teams to complete the activity. And then, there's program evaluation that can be distributed at the end of the activity. So it's a very thorough, comprehensive package of stuff that we give you because we really want this to be successful for you. So you can actually purchase extra helicopter kits. Keep in mind, we have the standard version and we have the inter-team version. So think about which version might be most appropriate for you given your specific situation at your workplace. Um, for more than 3 teams, we recommend ordering one extra helicopter kit per additional team. Okay, to make sure that there's plenty for everybody. Each kit includes 6 participant guides and 1 bag of helicopter parts. So keep in mind, we're talking about extra helicopter kits right now. Again, you can choose from standard or inter-team versions. Okay. We also have the standard version participant guide, and those come 1 pack, 5 for 5 participants. Also includes an initial supply of 18 participant guides, and you can replenish the guides as needed by ordering one per participant. Inter-team version, similar, 1 pack for up to 5 participants, and again, designed for folks who are working in cross-team environments from different areas or departments who need to sort of improve the way they work together. Facilitation guidelines for the inter-team version are included in the facilitator guide, just like they're included for the standard version in the standard version facilitator guide. Order one inter-team participant guide per participant for training. So there are some similarities between the materials here. Again, it's really up to what makes sense for you. We also provide something or offer something that a lot of our clients find valuable. We call it QST. Stands for Quick Start Train the Trainer. Excuse me. What is Quick Start Train the Trainer, you might ask? Well, this is where a representative from HRDQ will work with a client in a 1 hour virtual or, if possible, in-person coaching session. And it's really designed for first-time facilitators who really want to get it right. And there is a lot, there's a lot of information to process. And sometimes our clients feel that if they have an expert walk them through the materials and in particular the facilitator guide and the participant guide, they just feel a lot more confident. So this is kind of a nice thing that we offer. It is personalized. It is one-on-one with an SME, which stands for subject matter expert, to really get you up to speed quickly if you are going to be the person facilitating the exercise. All your questions are answered during the session, and it really provides sort of peace of mind for our clients who take advantage of QST because it's a one-on-one session with somebody who really knows the stuff inside and out. And in just 1 hour, you can get very, very comfortable and feel very, very confident. It's not obviously mandatory. It's just something that we offer that we find our clients appreciate. So hopefully my enthusiasm for Jungle Escape has come through in this webinar. And am I a representative of HRDQ? Yes, but I wouldn't be advocating for this product or any other HRDQ products if I really didn't feel that they're really, really good. As I say, I've been doing this a long time. I've worked with a lot of companies who are, selling various products, and they're all good. Uh, but something like Jungle Escape, I think, is just really, really neat. Um, I just think it's such a cool way to dig into team performance, team dynamics, team coherence, The jungle theme is fun. All the stuff that you get is fun. And as I said earlier, it's one of our most popular products. So we have a whole lot of folks out there that really enjoy it and really get a lot out of it. In a nutshell, why would I recommend it? Um, it's a lot of fun. It's engaging. People really take it, they're having fun, but they take it seriously, like they really get into it. It's hands on, it's tangible. You're working with, stuff, and you're putting things together, and you're pulling things apart, and you're testing and experimenting and asking your teammates, what do you think? And it's just really, really a blast. It's applicable to work, which I think is very important for any type of experiential activity. What's the connective tissue? What does this have to do with how we function back at work? Well, as I said earlier, you're probably not in the business of constructing helicopters, but if you are in the business of making decisions and solving problems and working together on projects and initiatives, then something like this can really, surface both the really good stuff that's happening and maybe the not so good stuff that's happening so that you can have a conversation about it in a fun, relaxed atmosphere. And I think that is key. It's high energy, it's collaborative, and I just think it's really cool. So if I've whet your appetite for Jungle Escape, and if this sounds like something that your team would enjoy, you might be thinking, okay, you know, I'm sold. What next? So we will um, ask you to try us out. Right? We want to give you an opportunity to try this exercise, try this activity, and see what you think about it. So we encourage you to order the product and check it out. How do you do that? Well, you can do it either with an individual. You can even do it with a team. We give you what we call it a 30-day money back guarantee. What that basically means is if you try it out and you think like, it's not really for us, we'll take the materials and supplies back as long as we can, as long as they're in a shape that we can use them, right? If they're already written in or torn up or something, obviously, we wouldn't be able to take something like that back. But as long as it's in like relatively new condition, didn't work for you, didn't get the bang out of it that you were hoping, not no problem. You have 30 days to get it back to us. Don't forget that quick start train the trainer if that's something that you want to think about taking advantage of for yourself. And so we will, on the heels of this webinar, we will send out an email, which you will find in your inbox with further instructions because we want you to be successful. We want you to have a good time with Jungle Escape, and we want to know that our partnership with you is a win-win for everybody. And we take our obligation to our clients very, very seriously. So I know this was really quick, but hopefully you got a gist of what Jungle Escape is all about, what it can do for your team, what's involved with the facilitation, what's involved with the various kits and the various items that come with it. But if you have additional questions, we are here to help. So you can get in touch with us by going on HRDQstore.com. You can also send us an email at support@hrdq.com. I know the person who responds to those emails, and she's excellent. She's very, very responsive. Or if you prefer, you can call us 800-633-4533. Lots of ways to get in touch with HRDQ. Again, we want you to be successful. We want you to feel good working with us, and we invite your calls or emails, whatever works best for you.
Well, thanks, Mike. And could we talk here a minute about what the key differences between the standard kit and the inner team kit are? We have a question there.
Say again, Sarah?
What's the key difference between the standard kit and the inner team kit?
So the interteam kit is really designed to be for, say, a team in sales and a team in marketing, who obviously need to work closely together at work, but maybe there's some things getting in the way. Maybe there's some conflict. Maybe there's some communication issues. So the approach to the activity is a little different than the standard version. So some of the copy may be a little different. The gist of the exercise itself, in terms of the materials, is more geared for that kind of situation where you have two teams who are working with each other, as opposed to the standard version, which would be like an intact work team. So there aren't major differences, but I think the differences are more in maybe some of the wording, or more in terms of what the materials emphasize.
Yes, so the facilitator guide will address the different ways to run the two workshops. The difference is primarily in the participant guides. And then, Mike, also, is it possible? We have a question here, if it's possible to run a session without having a participant guide, one participant guide per person.
Um, I suppose anything's possible, but I don't think you would get the best experience from the activity, not incorporating the participant guide, because the
Yeah.
participant guide is you know is the participant's roadmap for the activity, and it's full of self-reflective questions and uh, places to think and to discuss. And I mean, I think it's an essential part of the overall experience. So I would not recommend not using the participant guide.
Yes, you will definitely want to have one participant guide per person in order to effectively facilitate these sessions. So definitely make sure that you have an equitable amount of that. And then so let's see here. We have a question here. So Larry asked how we access the PDF file and the material screen and the handouts there. If you're having an issue with that, Larry, we will follow up with you via email with that handout if you're having a difficult time downloading that handout there. Let's see, any other questions come through? Nope. That will cover up all the questions today. So thanks so much for your time today,
Good
Mike.
questions.
Yeah, really great questions.
My pleasure. It was a lot of fun to go through this, and I want to thank everybody for coming on and showing interest in this activity. And we have a lot of different things that we offer, all kinds of stuff. So we'd love to partner with you, and again, help you be successful, help your teams be successful. And we encourage you to reach out. If Jungle Escape, what's your appetite for something fun, engaging, collaborative? We're here to help. So thank you, Sarah, for giving me the opportunity to lead this webinar tonight.
Yes, and if you have any additional questions or they come, later in time that you think of those, please make sure that you send us an email there or give us a call at this information on the screen. We'd be happy to help you with that. And with that, thank you all for participating in today's product demo. Happy training, everyone.
Take care, everybody. Thanks for your time.